welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 372nd film from 2020. It's the Indian Marathi language drama called The Disciple. It's directed by Chaitanya Tamhane and stars Aditya Modak, Arun Dravid, Sumitra Bhav, Deepika Bhagwat, and Kiran Yadnapavit. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thanks for joining me today. Apologies for the pronunciation of some of those names. But as always, we are going to jump into this film called The Disciple. So if you haven't seen this one and you're keen on checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because we kick off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, I struggled a little bit with this one. I've struggled, I'm going to put it out there, I've struggled with this film quite a bit. So I've stolen a lot of stuff online for this film. But this, the Fast Flicks for this one, it's about a man who's striving for musical success through dedication, and obviously there are some challenges along the way. This film's not going to be for everyone. We're not into my early thoughts yet, so let's talk a little bit about how this one ended up on Netflix. So the Disciple relates to this man who's following a guru almost in success of musical sort of talent, I guess is how we put it. So across the world, in German it's called The Student, in Polish and Russian it's just called Student, in Japanese it's called Dream Chaser, not bad, chasing the dream of musical success. In Chinese it's called Chasing the Inspiration of Music, not bad, and in Turkish it's called The Perfect Student. I don't know if he's necessarily the perfect student that we see in this film, but that's okay. Let's continue on. So a little bit of information about this film. So the director of this one, his debut film came out in April of 2015. It was called Court. And then Chaitanya Tamhane, the director, worked through extensive research to write a script based on Indian classical music. And this was back in September of 2015. Around March of 2016, he started writing the project, which took more than 18 months to complete. As the director said, the first page of the script was very difficult to crack. It took me 22 months to complete the first page, and then within the next 2 months, the entire script was complete. He didn't take much time to rewrite it, as he said that his first draft was also the final draft of the script. As a part of the research for the work, Chaitanya travelled to various cities across India, including Delhi, Kolkata, Varanasi, Pune, and Ahmedabad. He added that apart from interviewing musicians, he also had to form genuine friendships and relationships to build rapport with them so that they would open up and let him understand their inner world as being a musician. In an interview with the New Indian Express, Tamhane stated that The Disciple is set in the world of classical music, but it's not about musicians who draw sold-out concerts in big auditoriums. It's about musicians who are on the fringes and are a part of the subculture in Bombay. Very, very true. During the period of writing, the director Chaitanya was guided by Alphonse Cuarón. Many people would know him from the Netflix original film Roma, which we have covered on this show. He met Alphonse Cuarón in the 2016-2017 edition of the Rolex Mentor and Prodigy Arts Initiative. Chaitanya stated that Cuarón had read the script and saw the editing work right up to the finished film. Sharing his friendship with Alphonse, Tamhane, the director, said that for an independent filmmaker's mind, the restrictions come first. There are many other things on a practical and technical level when it comes to filmmaking. He added that Alfonso guided him through the work, saying that if the vision was there, the rest would follow, and he helped with motivation throughout the process. It was also further stated that the collaboration with Alphonse Cuarón was not formal rapport, but almost like respect and gratitude for the filmmaker. For the main role of this film, Sharad, the character, the director said that the person needed to have the abilities of singing, acting, and be fluent in the Marathi language. In an interview, he said, "We went with a newcomer, Aditya Modak, who is a classical singer and chartered accountant, because they figured it would be easier to get a musician who could act rather than vice versa. We had to do this for most of the key roles, and casting alone took them a whole year." Shooting of the film took place for more than 2 years, and the film is set entirely in Mumbai. For the cinematography, Tamhane used Michael Sabansky from Poland after Alphonse Cuarón suggested him. While he wanted the film to be romantic, textured, and subjective, which is very different from his debut film, Court, he could not find an appropriate cinematographer, so he asked Cuarón for the advice. Cuarón reached out to his normal cinematographer, Emmanuel Lubezki, for this, who recommended Michael's name. Although he had he had shot a few commercials in India, Michael then flew to India to spend a few months understanding the country and the subject of the film. Tamani, the director, approached Anish Pradhan, a former tabla player and music historian whom he shared a friendship with after appreciating the director's debut film Court. On describing Pradhan's music in detail, he said, "Even if the musicians are performing traditional bandishas, they have to be curated, customized, and modified for the film. There's about 5 to 6 sequences of music in the movie, and I wanted them to shape the film's soundscape as well as inform the viewer about what exactly is happening. The individual units of music had to work as a whole, and the idea was to show the journey of the raga music to a wider audience." Nareen Chandravarkar worked on the sound design and pre-mixing of the album. Instead of recording the musicians separately, the director Tahani decided to bring entire musicians in a single room to record them together. Tamani used a 3-camera setup to shoot the musicians closely so that their reactions while playing the music could be captured. He further added that this would become the reference during the actual shooting for the musicians when they become a part of the cast during the principal photography, stating the musicians reacted to the moment during the original recording of the music and he wanted to capture that. Tamani's mentor, Alphonse Cuarón, worked on the visual effects in the film. He also insisted on the correct use of VFX in a way that it becomes completely invisible to the narrative and not to use it so it's more obvious. And that works towards enhancing the storytelling that Cuarón worked on. He used Dolby Atmos mixing for the background score, and Tamani was present at the sound mixing of Roma and spent time with the engineers who trained him in using the tool more efficiently, which played a key part in the film's script. The film was entered into the main competition at the 77th Venice Film Festival, becoming the first Indian film since Monsoon Wedding in 2001 to compete at the festival. At the Venice Film Festival, it won the FIPRESCI International Critics Prize presented by the International Federation of Film Critics and the Best Screenplay Award. It was also screened at the 2020 Toronto International Film Festival, where it was named a winner of the Amplify Voices Award. This is where Netflix acquired the distribution rights to the film, and it was released through the streaming platform on the 30th of April 2021. So this did somehow appear in the Philippines online on the 30th of April 2020. Then we go to Venice, where it premiered in screen, went at Toronto, a whole bunch of more festivals before Netflix on the 30th of April 2021. As said before, this was filmed in and around Mumbai, and it did have 15 wins at a variety of award shows and a further 12 nominations as well. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, this sits at 96%. Super high. That is on 56 reviews, so that is certified fresh. The audience a little bit lower at 67%. That's more than 50 ratings. IMDb, it's very high as well, a 7.1 out of 10 on 3,200 ratings. Letterboxd, again, extremely high, 3.7 out of 5 on nearly 6,500 ratings, and it's been logged by a bit over 9,000 people. And again, Metacritic on that traffic light system of red, yellow, or green. It is green, green, green. Audience 7.4 out of 10 on 18 reviews, and the critics are 83 out of 100 on 13 reviews. So you would have to say this film has been received fairly well. What are my early thoughts? I'm going against the grain on this one. Not very often that there's a critically acclaimed film that I don't get on board for, but this just was not for me. I can appreciate the quality of filmmaking, but narrative-wise, I was so bored. The worst thing in this film is that none of the musical performances had subtitles in English, and they dragged on throughout. I think it was like 5 or 6 times that there were these big, long, drawn-out musical performances that just didn't work for me. So, sorry to say, not a big fan of this film. Let's talk about the character. So this film is literally about a guy called Sharad. This is that he's a faithfully devoted student to this guy called Guruji. He's like a guru for this guy, and he's a guru of this particular style of Hindu classical music. And Sharad's relationship to this guru is almost greater than other students because this guru also taught his father too. And Sharad's dedication and struggle to achieve success in his passion is almost crippling for him because he has self-doubt and he has this aspiration for excellence that he just can't achieve. It's not achievable because part of this issue is that his vocals just aren't that good. But he's so dedicated to this style of music, and throughout that he literally has no relationship with anyone. His mother lives a fair way off. It's very strained. His father's no longer around, and even when he was a kid. It seemed like his dad was so focused on this music that's inbuilt in him. He didn't have the opportunity to almost be a kid when he was a kid, because this music has been indoctrinated almost in him as being the one and only thing that he needs to be passionate about. The guru guy, so he follows the teachings of this guru called Mai. She's this female that is no longer around, but she has audio recordings that Sharad listens to and follows as well. And both of these people have been looked up to so many people, but they're sort of frauds, we find out throughout. So Sharad's whole thinking is questioned throughout this film. The director of this film, Chaitanya Tamani, as I've said before, this is his second feature film after the film called Court. I'd probably be interested in checking that film out, to be honest, just to see, like, visually and the way the film's put together, very well done. The narrative for this, for me, just didn't work. So let's talk about some things that worked, some things that didn't work. A couple of things that worked, like the camera work throughout the film, zooming in on Sharad's face at various stages when he was disappointed or had been put down by his guru. It was super effective and well done, and really needed at times, especially as someone who doesn't understand Marathi as a language. I had no idea what the lyrics were saying or what was trying to be promoted. So those facial expressions and the performances worked there as well as the camera work. There's a moment towards the end where Sharad is teaching music in a school, and this kid and the mother come over to him to say, we're leaving your school, we're going to chase fame a little bit. And Sharad's response is, you're going to spoil the school name, my name. Sort of tells them, do what you want to do, but don't come back here. I thought that was really effective. And then the same where it's a flashback scene when Sharad's a little bit younger, but he sort of meets with this journalist who pretty much tells him that every person he idolizes, whether that's May or his guru, that they're fakes, and he throws a glass of water on him, and that's that moment that you sort of say, okay, what is his dream? What's his ambitions, and what has he been striving for? Because maybe what he's been striving for hasn't actually been the truth, and the truth does play a part in this film. What didn't work? So I've got to say, every musical scene just didn't work for me. I was so bored. I couldn't care less. There's this, and it ties in with the themes, which we'll talk about soon, but they have this Indian singing, like idol-like show. And I get what it meant for the narrative to sort of show the difference between this classical music and upholding the history of that, and how easy fame can come to people on television. But it just seems so cheaply done. And I get that that's probably where they were going with it. Just felt weird for the rest of the film. The Sharad guy, there's a moment where he goes on social media and just scrolls through reactions and comments on YouTube and social media and negative feedbacks to his performances. It was just boring, as well as the moment. There was a few times where he sat there watching pornography and masturbating, and I highlighted his loneliness. The soundtrack tied in really well, and it was cleverly edited, but I'm not sure we needed to see it multiple times, to be honest. The themes, the ideas. This film's trying to say a lot, and it's a little bit of a question as to how do these themes resonate. And when I struggled to have a connection with the character, maybe they didn't hold up as well. So there's obviously this defense for this Hindu type classical music, as that idea of globalization and technology threaten these old traditions, and that idea of commercialization of music and the tradition versus the change, and the music industry pushing the same artists for profit. I get that's interesting. The idea that we see through Sharad of striving for perfection, but being so passionate about it, what's that cost to your happiness? And the idea of dreaming but struggling to achieve these dreams, even with such dedication and commitment of time and effort. And I think that the idea that he does nothing but practice, and the idea that truth and talent can't be taught. So no matter how much you practice, you're not going to have that authenticity often that they speak about. And he tries this through meditation and spirituality, but it's hard, I guess. And because there's those underlying societal ideas of expectations of having a job that pays money, not doing like a hobby and giving away your time cheaply, and a family who wants you to get married, have kids, do the norms of what's expected in society. What did I take away from this one? I think like the non-linear storytelling elements had me confused at times. I got the moments like Sharad as a kid and the present adult, and the bits in between, they're a little bit confusing, a bit all over the shop. Just because you put a pot belly on a guy and a moustache, I don't know, it just felt a little bit off, and I've got to repeat it again. I just can't say enough how frustrating it was not to have any subtitles for any of the songs. That really, really peeved me off. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas. I think like Alphonse Cuarón, is it just because he's a producer that this has been so well received? And it's like the Indians, we've done a lot of Indian films on this show, and they're the harshest critics towards their own films. Obviously, this one came across very positively from the Indian audience, as well as a lot of the Western critics as well. And is that just because of Alphonse Cuarón's connection? Because to me, yes, it looks good and stuff, but I don't know, there was just something missing for me. And I guess it plays with that idea in the film too. What is the idea of success? What does success mean for Sharad? And maybe, I think possibly, my definition or understanding of it, because a lot of the discussion around this film is about how gloomy and sad it is, this artist who can't achieve his dreams and his goals. But realistically, yes, we see Sharad give up on his dream of being a musician, but we see him happy with a wife and a child, and he's still successful in the industry that he's so passionate about. It's just in a different way. He's now set up this business of selling old music, and this was his passion, like that tradition and that honor, and obviously being successful in that. Just because you can't sing or perform, he's had to alter his goals a little bit. So maybe that is a successful conclusion for him, and some happiness towards the end of this film. I've just got to put it out there too. The final scene, we see Sharad sitting on a train, and there's this kid playing and singing on the train as well. And there were some subtitles finally for some lyrics. The final scene of the film had some subtitles for lyrics, which I really appreciated, but then they just cut out and they just stopped. So I left me with an even sourer taste in my mouth. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this one up. We give the films we watch on Netflix a rating out of 5. For me, unfortunately, I just couldn't care less about Sharad or this film. It's well made, the soundtrack's impressive, but I just couldn't hack 2 hours of watching a film about music that I couldn't even read the lyrics of or get into. So for me, this is a 2 out of 5. Not the worst rating, but I'm not going to watch this film ever again, to be honest. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have X, formerly known as Twitter. The question I wanted to put onto socials for this episode is the idea of that question: who is art really for? Because there's a moment where Sharad's listening to the audio tapes of his guru, or Maya, or whatever her name is, and she's talking about, when you're an artist, you should perform for different audiences that you come across. And she's like, well, if there's 200 people in a room, how can I cater to 200 different tastes of my songs or lyrics or things like that? So who is art actually for? I think, to me, and I think I've said this before on this show, art's really impressive in that I think everyone should be able to take their own interpretation out of something that they see or hear or watch. And I think that's a really important thing. So yes, artists make art for themselves to express themselves, but I also think art is for an audience too, and to interpret it themselves how they need to and how they want to. Other than that, we are back next week with another Indian film. This one's again from 2020. It's the Indian Hindi language drama called Milestone, or Meel Pathar. It's directed by Ivan Ayer and stars Suvinder Vicky and Lakshvia Saran. So that's what we have next week. Hopefully you're on board for that one. Give it a watch if you want to. Other than that, thanks for hanging out today, and I'll see you next week.